Before you listen, if you enjoy the stories and want to hear more, then please consider subscribing. Most of you listening aren't subscribed, so please take this time to subscribe. Turn on notifications so you'll never miss a story and be the first to hear. You'll also be supporting me. Thank you. When a notification popped up for a new Snapchat friend request, I figured someone from my new school found my username. But opening the app, I froze seeing the name Uncle Ricky 315 staring back at me. Heart racing, I knew my late uncle passed when I was 6 years old. Curiosity and confusion flooded my senses. Could this person actually be a relative I hadn't met who chose my uncle's name in memorial? Or was this some cruel prank or catfish scheme targeting my family loss? Handshaking, I clicked accept, wondering if I was falling for online predators my guidance counselors constantly warned about. When the first snap loaded, I saw a middle-aged man smiling on a couch that resembled my grandparents' basement. The message simply said, "Jesse, so good to finally reach you. I've missed you terribly." My mind reeled. This stranger somehow knew my name and was speaking with unsettling familiarity. I replied cautiously, asking who he was. He responded instantly, claiming to be Uncle Ricky's best friend from childhood. He said he found me by chance while grieving the painful anniversary of losing touch after my uncle's sudden passing years before. I remained skeptical, requesting more details to jog distant family memories. The fast replies gave me whiplash trying to analyze the vague tidbits he recalled about relatives or an old neighborhood couch long discarded. Nothing concrete proved legitimate familiarity beyond internet scouring skills. Despite misgivings, I continued conversing, morbidly curious how far this family friend charade could go. For a couple weeks, he messaged daily, asking innocuous questions about school and hobbies before sharing rambling memories, painting himself as my uncle's tragic confidant. But soon his snaps turned darker, complaining about fights with his wife or their loveless marriage held together only by the daughter caught in middle. Alcohol appeared frequently in frame as his speech slurred in the evenings, his gripes turning sinister toward my aunt's family for keeping my uncle distantly obligated until his dying day. A creeping sense he was manipulating my family's pain for attention left me increasingly uneasy. His late-night rants wallowed in self-pity, trying to bond over shared injustice by my uncle's early death. When I stopped responding as frequently, the man grew possessive, demanding to know who was distracting me from caring about his crippling grief. Concerned by the worsening obsession, I threatened to report him. But he pounced on that admission of my age vulnerability, twisting instantly to threaten exposure of our discussion's inappropriate nature given his adult status. Fear spiked realizing I had been extorted into conversing by someone depicting a trusted familial tie, only to warp that perception now against me. Panicked and exposed, my finger hovered to block this toxic presence mining anguish surrounding personal tragedy for twisted self-validation. But seeing message notifications stacking up by the minute, I hesitated, knowing this person had researched my life extensively and could easily anonymous harass me further if I did not placate his consuming neediness. So I continued allowing unhealthy entitlement to my time and energy, feeling sickened but hopelessly snared. The final breaking point came on the 1-month anniversary of our first contact. I woke to 20 unread chat notifications that quickly. Then voicemails followed, an unhinged tirade, spewing vitriol against my reluctance to console his crippling isolation. You ungrateful brat. Can't even pay respects to someone who considered your family more than you ever did. Deleted every shred of our so-called friendship then and there. This man was no one who ever knew my caring uncle, just a mentally ill parasite who exploited sympathies by creating a fictional bond. Blocking his existence both digitally and mentally felt freeing after enduring emotional extortion for weeks from that lonely stranger hiding behind a mirage of kinship and home. In the months after, I constantly wrestled nightmares about faceless predators mining social media to strategically befriend and slowly manipulate users' deepest psychological wounds and fears against them through false personas promising support, no matter how compelling the tale spun across glowing screens. I learned that vulnerability requires wariness against letting poisoned empathy open backdoors to one's inner peace or stability at the hands of those seeking only victims to host their parasitic darkness. Now phone alerts spike my anxiety until proven harmless, traumatized by experiencing firsthand how cunningly strangers can orchestrate trust and complicity using nostalgia, grief, or other raw nerve human needs as puppet strings. While seeking connections appears harmless on apps linking broader webs, obsession also increases to ensnare life forces of those lingering too openly or trusting amidst crowds they cannot actually see heart first. So I retreated behind filters that guard my light from craving eyes, which mistake my brightness, for an invitation to consume what was never theirs to take at whim. For true family and friends will wait patiently to be welcomed through fortified gates without demanding ransom for asked affections. And no amount of clever disguise or manipulation can ever purchase what love alone earns by respecting sacred bonds protecting the vulnerable psyche within. So now with wiser caution, I engage the digital world's phantom acquaintances, no longer leaving windows cracked blindly to darkness disguised behind familiar names or stories, planted to burrow sinisterly into safe inner sanctums. For predators rely on shining spirits, who stupidly believe family ghosts seek only to love them. Each morning, the first thing I do is scroll my Snapchat memories, smiling at the funny college pics and admiring the post-grad glow-up. But waking up yesterday of a little pink bar graph showing 400 snaps and video suddenly reflected nothing. Confused, I reloaded the app, thinking it just glitched, only to feel my stomach sink seeing the perpetual loading symbol spinning in place of my photo albums and years of sentimental content I heavily curated. Pacing anxiously in my robe, I tried every remedy site forums suggested, restarting my phone account, reinstalling the app, changing passwords. I pleaded with customer support through frantic emails, only receiving robotic replies about servers being too busy with similar distraught refund requests. After hours forcing various device and app functionality fixes like sacrificial offerings, I slumped defeated before the unchanged blank page mocking years' worth of vanished digital memories. Tears flowed as I questioned desperately why the algorithm decided to ransack my profile so randomly. Flooded by horrified sadness at losing that personal nostalgia time capsule documenting my early adulthood, I finally passed out around dawn, emotionally exhausted from the traumatic discovery. I tossed and turned fitfully, haunted by visions of photos from countless milestone moments disappearing into black holes. My college graduation standing joyfully with family before an ivy-lined building, friend reunions through the years in various cities documented while wearing matching squad shirts, a lived tropical beach excursion to let loose before knuckling down in new graduate research career pursuits. All of the sentimental touchpoints commemorating personal growth and expanding horizons now just digitally ash in some virtual void. Awakingly the next afternoon, groggy from adrenaline-spiked sleep, I reached blearily for my phone as I do each morning. Reflexively pulling up Snapchat to scan any progress, I optimistically checked updates and notifications. Then I froze, feeling instantly wide awake at the sight of a typed chat message from an unfamiliar handle with no profile pic or details. The phrase dance referring to my rose's tattoo. A small discreet marking only visible if one saw me undressed or very closely embracing another person. The chilling note explicitly claimed responsibility for intentionally deleting my years of Snapchat archives, saying they'd tidied up your memories a bit to get your attention, beautiful. I broke out in cold sweat, fingers shaking, feeling violated to my core at the alarming personal reference. Urgently, I scrolled through dozens of other unsolicited chat messages received from that phantom account overnight. They contained threats interspersed with countless candid photos of me in obviously private, vulnerable moments. Studying focused at my home office, exercising alone late at night at my gym, even sleeping fitfully just hours ago through the previous nightmarish night of my very memories being methodically ransacked by this predator. Heart hammering and breaths shallow, gripping fear froze my lungs as full realization dawned. I was being digitally stalked and harassed through my own private devices and accounts by a cunning hacker. Someone who had awaited my frantic online distress at losing years of personal nostalgia content as some twisted courtship opportunity. This criminal had been intermittently tracking me without my knowledge, behind the veil of my very phone and social media security settings. Now in revealing their access after months of gathering deeply private imagery and location data, they clearly hoped to spark in me reliance or some trauma bond with my anonymous tormentor. Blood roared loudly in my ears as I grappled with a nightmare come to life. That my beloved photos, geotags, and personal creativity shared in trusted digital spaces had instead betrayed me. This phantom now wielded complete power to overwrite my self-identity by weaponizing my own intimate moments against me. I switched settings to private immediately, but thousands of unrequested ad requests now bombarded me daily as word spread online about my exposed vulnerability. My anonymous tormentor somehow bypassed restrictions to continue sending ominous messages and explicit photos of myself. I never consented to being pictured, let alone shared to who knows how many illicit sites now. Their access to my phone camera confirmed my deepest fears about the pervading lack of privacy in a technology age where faceless voyeurs rule supreme over anyone daring documented moments believing digital platforms honor security. I urgently changed devices, accounts, deactivated as many social media and data clouds offline as possible to purge the invasive infection corrupting my digital security. Still, the messages filtered through newly created handles each time I tried restoring even basic app functions in my modern dependent life. The nameless predator toying with my autonomy seemed determined to overwrite any shred of digitized independence I attempted reclaiming. Police efforts to trace the obsessive hacker proved unsuccessful, limited by their own analog grasp of virtual crime sprees enacted brazenly through veiled networks shielding deviants. Meanwhile, I endured countless sleepless weeks fearing the next provocative image, featuring my oblivious form, might arrive in hundreds of leering strangers' feeds should my YouTube history set off the voyeur's desire for spectacle. Soon I couldn't leave home without paranoid sweeps for hidden cameras, skin crawling constantly feeling watched by salivating gazes behind every roving lens. Ultimately surrendering my career aspirations built heavily through online branding felt devastating and necessary. I retreated fully from view, embracing Luddite life off-grid where electricity itself cannot fuel deranged compulsions. Now I pen journal entries by candlelight, wary of reviving digital demons who may still silently comb footage of eons past seeking my lingering spark, wandering unaware before their ravenous lenses. While loss of connections woefully taxes my heart, no candidate of faceless threats or memories stolen can erase the lasting human imprints, nurturing safe refuge here beyond all networks continually compromised. For once eyes bleed from staring too long into darkness, simply out of entitlement masquerading as love, no laws but natural order remain to correct what is seen, and not meant to be held forever hostage. When my friends and I decided to have a spooky sleepover the Halloween weekend before college, nostalgia also compelled us to reminisce over childhood rituals like telling ghost stories or trying weird supernatural challenges popular back then. So at midnight, and already giggly on candy, we played with the social media site's Halloween-themed lenses out of curiosity, as digital storytelling had now replaced real goosebumps around actual campfires. Some effects simply imposed cute dog noses or elf ears atop our faces, but a curiously titled Nostalgia lens unlocked a cryptic black and white filter unlike the rest. Instantly, we noticed the augmented reality layer made photos resemble old film negatives. Grainy footage of us four laughing manically as the living room transformed into monochromatic void, framing our distorted faces. Something about the unsettling filter triggered primal instincts like hearing noises in a dark forest, though we tried dismissing creeping unease as silly projections in the atmosphere of seasonal hauntings. Still, a growing sense arose that perhaps modern technology succeeded in digitizing forces as yet undefined by human comprehension. We nervously triple-checked the bolted door before attempting sleep as our phones mysteriously glitched and died suddenly that night, their charging lights winking out in unison. Over the next week, glitches plagued each device showing that video or cloistered filter icon. Calls disconnected with no reasonable excuses from service providers. Battery percentages flipped randomly from 100 to 0, then back again. Most unsettling was camera roll images featuring increasing distortions. Shots of cozy cafes or scenic lookouts decaying into foreboding darkness the longer we scrolled. Though deleting that initial spectral photo buried in our archives brought no relief from the disturbances mounting daily. Soon we noticed issues extended beyond phones too, each reporting household appliances on the fritz, garage doors opening and closing, inexplicably on time settings we never changed. The shared experience of unprompted technical havoc made our skin crawl with the implications. Whatever supernatural surge the nostalgia filter unlocked was slipping steadily from the confines of coding into actual reality. Then, late one windy afternoon, as I hurried down an empty backroad shortcut home, the distinct crackle of dead air static hissed suddenly from my purse. I froze, realizing in horror that antique radio interference emitting loudly from my zipped bag could only mean the haunted photo somehow transferred itself unbidden to my tablet. I grabbed the device with trembling hands just as the deafening rush of voices flooded the tiny speakers. Frantic, overlapping whispers pleaded for help against an unknown force. I dropped the screeching device in shock, watching my tablet screen flicker rapidly through abstract sigils and symbols amidst the wailing cacophony. Heart-throttling, I abandoned it there by the roadside as the straying speakers blew out completely with one final scream swallowed by persistent static. No longer needing proof that sinister forces laced that lens icon we tempted so foolishly on a lark. Whatever this nostalgia filter's origins, the pathways unlocking paranormal chaos proved irreversible once we gazed even briefly into the veil it somehow tore between digital masks and spectral darkness lying subtly beneath our virtual play. Clearly some tortured souls slaved their pain onto the filled stock-inspired coding in order to share their horrifying fates beyond the ether, and we amplified their distress by spreading that initial cursed image across our collective devices like an SOS in a bottle sent to sea from a sinking ship sailing endlessly into hell while awaiting an impossible rescue. Now having unleashed that despairing message irresponsibly as suburban mediums smug before forces far exceeding human comprehension, menacing genies refused returning to lamps since first granted permission that arrogantly fateful Halloween Eve. The four of us still struggled daily decades of transmissions escaping onto public bandwidths, manifesting as roadblock disturbances that cannot be explained rationally or conveniently switched off. As for myself, residual night terrors haunt still, featuring crying silhouettes banging against glass panes and frames, suspended outside reality's hard lens, yet reflected back through my own eyes, barely daring blink lest those shrouded faces scream silently yet close enough for only me to witness their immoral anguish carved into the fabric of some reality best left untouched. So perhaps our human circle should gather again under the blood moon sometime soon, hold a proper ritual farewell fueled by the same foolish hunger that summoned those unhappy spirits from their obscurity in the first place, to honor the discovery yet acknowledge unearthly debts still lingering unpaid, tied to adolescent arrogance demanding recognition before respected forces whose immortal wounds cannot be filtered politely back into the abyss through one toxic trend made instagramous, until amends are rendered mutually by hearts and minds cooled properly in boundaries between temporal vanity and eternal vessels abandoned yet active still beyond our blinking sight.
Thanks for listening in. If you like these stories and want to hear more, then please subscribe and like and support this new channel. We have more stories for you to listen to.